Hello friends, now I'll be reading the Hindu editorial from 25th February at 100 words per minute in 5 seconds. Begin. Some months ago, a die-hard liberal columnist yearned for the return of the days that he had spent at a residential school in the Himalayan foothills where children from different religions celebrated all festivals with the same ebullience and never bothered from anyone's religion. The same daily published a response a few days later by a politician from Bihar who said that nobody in his community or village wanted to return to the days of the 1960s. The OBCs, Dalits, and tribespeople of India had come a long way, the writer pointed out, and wondered how many of the students in the school in question came from these subaltern sections of the Indian society then. Critics of Hindutva nationalism often suggest that a return to Nehru is what India needs, since the Congress party is considered to be the vehicle of a Nehruvian consensus. Well meaning co travelers of the party want it to restore its original moorings to be able to counter communal polarization, but before attempting to bring back the Nehruvian order, its proponents should ponder over why it crumbled to begin with. The current strength of the Bharatiya Janata Party in the Hindi heartland, the battleground of the Hindutva and Congress versions of Indian nationalism, is rooted in the significant expansion among the OBCs, Dalits, and tribes people of the Hindutva ideology, which was languished as an upper caste fantasy for several decades. The upper caste were the early investors in the Hindutva startup, which became an electoral juggernaut only once it became a mass movement. The Ayodhya movement first, and then under control of Narendra Modi as what can be termed Hindutva 2.0, unified conflicting caste and economic interests and ideas. Those tensions continue to simmer, but the subalterns have found a new sense of empowerment and upward mobility in the tidal wave of Hindutva. Critics of Hindutva do not acknowledge, far less appreciate, the remarkable agility and adaptability of Hindutva. Political arguments against Hindutva are largely built on originalism, citing the texts of the likes of V.D. Savarkar and M.S. Golwalkar on the one hand, and texts of the likes of Nehru and M.K. Gandhi on the other, to suggest these were dialectical opposites. Based on the understanding, a call for the revival of the good old days is made. Meanwhile, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh is doing what it takes to expand its social base, editing out parts of the legacy it no longer wants of its own pantheon, and selectively appropriating text, practice, and totem from nationalism. What will be more useful as a guide for any new secular strategy is to see how politics was played and perceived by different social groups on the ground then and now. Nehruvians assume monolithic religious communities and call for harmony between them with a singular focus on the secularism communalism binary. What is celebrated as secularism is often little more than a compact of the elites of various religions. The BJP has successfully authored Muslims in the heartland through its exclusive politics towards them, but its liberal critics fail to see the inclusive components of its politics towards the subalterns, what political commentator Sajan Kumar has called subaltern Hindutva. In fact, the pointed exclusion of Muslims and the expanding representation of subaltern groups are two interlinked processes. Under the BJP from 2014, two presidents were elected, one a heartland Dalit and the other a heartland tribal woman. Compare this with the United Progress Alliance left coalition, where presidents and vice presidents were elected between 2004 and 2014. Subaltern communities are in a blind spot for the Nehruvians, who do not realize the exclusion that they practice. The BJP, meanwhile, is taking the subaltern outreach deeper to Muslims too by raising questions of the Pasmanda or backward sections among them. Regions outside the Hindi heartland had a different framework to deal with the two versions of nationalism that the BJP and the Congress came to represent, and which they will continue to use. The idea of secularism is irrelevant in the context of the relationship between regional interest groups and national parties. We do not see any regional party clamoring for the return of the Nehruvian order. On the contrary, leaders such as K. Chandrasekhar Rao of the Bharat Rashtriya Samiti often say the BJP and the Congress are two sides of the coin. The political expediency apart, this is a fundamental position that most regional parties share. The revival of the Congress, if it is possible at all, will have to be examined in the social context of the heartland. The subaltern of the heartland link their upward mobility to the unraveling of the Nehruvian order. For the heartland admirers, Nehru was Pandit, a reference to him being a Brahmin. The upper castes, Muslims and Dalits, formed the social base of the Congress of the Nehruvian days, and the middle castes largely felt alienated. The unraveling of the old began with the opportunistic alliances of Hindutva and OBC groups in the 1960s itself and was complete by the late 1980s. From an OBC perspective, Muslims were allies of the upper caste in an order that excluded them. Later, Muslims and the OBCs became allies against Hindutva. Dalits, meanwhile, walked away from the tokenism of Congress to create autonomous spaces. The call for a return of the Nehruvian order to the subaltern years is a call for dominance of the upper class segments among Hindus and Muslims. The fact that this call is made by these very segments of the society makes that fear reasonable. We see no Ambedkarite or Lohietite clamoring for the return of Nehru. The Congress on fluctuating fortunes in the heartland in recent years are linked to how the subalterns perceive it. The change from UPA 1 to UPA 2 on this account is also notable. Stop. Join the Telegram group in the comment section for the PDF.